I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. John, you want to do roll call?
DeSico. Dimovit.
Here.
Heckman.
Here.
Slaughter. Here. Stimson.
Here.
Stuckey. Here. And Willard.
Here. Anyone have view all the meeting minutes? And the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda, consent agenda.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. And then any questions to the approval of the financial report? If there's any questions for staff on that? If there's not, we just look for a motion to approve the financial report.
Motion to approve the financial report.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? All right, we're gonna move then to citizen comment. We're gonna keep that, everyone can come up, 5 minutes. John will put 5 minutes on the clock up there so you know where you're at. And I don't know which way, maybe we start from this side of the room over, if that works for them.
First, before we do that, I'll just list off all the written comments that didn't be just for all the people I've sent about, just to make a note of it. We've received written comment there in the packet from Chris Daly, Karen Atkinson, Helen LeMay, Dan Carver, William Corbett, Kenny Buck, Sandy Fife, Jonathan and Marianne Lindborn, Cindy Pilling, Gordon Mainen, Bill Barney, Paul and Marty Semmer, Scott and Julie Babcock, Chris Fillingham, Jeff Burden.
Does that work if we start kind of on this side of the room and work our way over?
Not particularly for me, no.
Anybody who on that side can get up and just state your name and
You would not mind approaching the dais at least.
yes.
I'll just go ahead. Chris Fillingham, the new owner of 6871 Highway 9. It's good to see you guys again this evening. I'm going to start by grounding my ask and the particular facts of my situation. Our family closed on our house on May 16th or May 13th, 6 days before the board adopted the moratorium. And as I mentioned last month, before I closed, I did everything possible to make sure I was planning around the ordinances that were just passed last fall. So I read through that ordinance in detail more than once, reached out to Chad and emailed and called and John some emails and reached out to Kyle about our renovation plans. Then I also went and spoke to the Blue Sanitation District and the county assessor. I went through every channel I could find for a very particular reason. Because I knew that if I bought this house and I could not rent it, it would be a serious and a significant financial hardship for my family. So I did all the homework. All the lights were green. It closed on May 13th. And 6 days later, the moratorium was passed. Last month, someone said that you didn't do this to hurt anyone. And I really believe you. I can tell you're good-hearted. But there have been, and there does continue to be, real human cost and consequences to the decision. There have been several sleepless nights for me over the last few months. Every week of uncertainty is another week that we are carrying the weight of a decision we made in reliance on what the town told us we could do. Which is why I'm here tonight to ask the board one very simple and specific thing. Please include in your revised ordinance a defined pathway for owners like me. Owners who took title before May 19th and who can show a documented good faith intent to apply for a short-term rental permit. Because right now, every week I am walking with uncertainty, and it's an uncertainty that carries pretty profound implications for my family and our well-being. Now, I do want to genuinely thank you for all having that extra meeting this last month. I watched the June 30th meeting in full. It's clear that you're working hard to get through these complicated questions, and you're now wrestling with questions about caps. Obviously, caps don't help me. They can make my situation more complicated. But I actually really understand why caps can be a healthy thing for a community like Blue River. And honestly, I would support a framework for caps that the board builds as long as it takes into account owners who've been acting in good faith with the town rather than punishing those of us who are actually trying to follow the policies and ordinances. So in your packet, I did submit a 5-part plan that I think can do that and be a really healthy balance, stuff I've seen in other communities. But I do want to close tonight with one of my family is here in the back row with me. We're on our family vacation, and we wanted to start our vacation by checking out this town and getting to know it more and explore this beautiful area and see the house that we bought and we started to work on. And the kids were really fun to had a good time walking around that as we just started dreaming together about the time that we will get to spend out here and the memories we will get to make with our family and our friends. Because you see, I am hoping to create a place where big families like ours can come together and just gather around a big enough table for everyone, where we can all eat together, and play games together, and share our stories. That's what our family's hoping to do. If you'll allow us, and if you'll make sure there's still a pathway for owners like me. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. Fred?
My name's Nancy Weil. I've been a resident here since 2008 on Wilderness Road. I'm also a resident of El Paso County. And I'm not even sure, I'm kind of coming in blind in regards to what restrictions have been imposed in regards to short-term rental. What I just wanted to emphasize was the potential benefit to short-term rental in opposition to long-term rental. And I'm going to cite 2 particular properties, one that I own across the street from me on Wilderness Road. I just took possession back from a long-term tenant who was one of our family members, and it was a very good relationship. But if you drive by it now, and most of my neighbors that live on that road can see the improvements that have been made to it. And then another one that I helped a young friend of ours acquire and redo over at 43. These are real life examples of what short-term rental can benefit a community with. 43 Red Mountain, if you want to drive by it, or 374 Wilderness. Those are perfect examples of a homeowner who is conscientious. I feel like we need to put some responsibility on the homeowner. If you don't have the ability to control your guests because you don't know how to find a good property management company or you live out of country, then there needs to be some type of legislation or whatever they do in a small town like this to prevent that and eliminate it and have good neighbor rules. So in El Paso County, where I have a short-term rental presently, we have some ordinances that were imposed. A couple more. One was an occupancy ordinance, which I think is something that is already in this, but I don't know who's enforcing it. So the enforcement of the ordinance is another thing. The funding of an enforcer, whether it's the sheriff or there's a position created to impose and enforce ordinances to make sure that us people that I live across the street from one, it's not in short-term service yet. My primary secondary home was in service for 8 years in 2008 to 2016 before even Airbnb existed. So I've got some experience, and I feel like it's our responsibility as owners of a short-term rental, whether it's just to supplement expenses, which a lot of it is, like I'm guessing you just talked about. It's not for to make his living, it's to supplement expenses. So in the benefits that can come from short-term are the properties are visited often. Like if you have check-in and check-out every 3 or 4 days, somebody's in that property. Long-term, you can see some cars on blocks, you can drive by, house hasn't been painted, it's neglected. I have both, and I can tell you that my short-term rental, because you get income based on your reviews. You don't have good reviews, you're not going to book, and that means you don't make revenue. So there's a yin and yang for all that. So we as homeowners of short-term rental need to be sensitive about our neighbors. And actually in El Paso County, they have what they call it a good neighbor policy. And it's lights out, or not lights out, but everybody's inside or no craziness after 10 p.m. There's several things, parking, being sensitive to neighbors, trash, picking up, making sure the property's cleaned at vacating the property. And this is posted in the actual short-term rental. These are just some suggestions. Like I said, I don't even know what, all I know is they've got a moratorium on issuance rate and permissions. I think that there's benefits to it. First of all, generating sales tax, lodging tax, income tax, and property tax interest. The property's in good shape, it's going to assess for higher value, and therefore it's going to be rated higher property tax. Not that I'm promoting that, believe me, but so there's a lot of benefits that can come from short-term rental if we have owners that are responsible, and that's where I guess the balance has to come in. So that's my. Thank you.
Hello, name's Travis Wardlaw. Been a short-term rental owner here for about 3 years. My wife and I plan to retire here. The goal is to be here in another 2 to 3 years once we get the kids launched. I've been attending. This is the first time I've attended this meeting live. I've been attending online, and the video quality is so bad I can't really tell who's talking. So forgive me if I don't recognize your voices, but I do know we've got a variety of folks here who are for and against the short-term rental thing. And I've heard you speak adamantly and passionately, just like with the Pete Bryants. And I believe it was a former mayor a couple of meetings back that got up here and said, you already have policy in place. What you don't have is the ability to enforce the policy. So I don't think the first knee-jerk reaction is to add more policy. It should be to enforce the ones you already have. Because I can tell you right now, just our personal experience, some of the caps you guys have talked about and brainstormed over are going to take care of themselves. The margins are decreasing. The platforms are not for the homeowners, they're for the guests. And so we're constantly challenged or fighting with that aspect of we're losing money and more money doing this thing, right? This is just allowing us to pick the property that we wanted and then ultimately get here, right? The other thing is I'm very, very, very experienced with deploying large-scale software. And I know you guys are looking at software. There was approval for the software last meeting, that sort of thing. It always takes longer than what the salesman's telling you it's going to take. And it costs more, it takes longer to do it. One of the good rules of thumb is take the time frame and double it. So if you're saying, I heard 6 months, plan on 8. That's a good number. Point is, it won't be done by the time the renewals are up. So don't let that be the thing that you're holding on to that's going to solve all the problems. It's going to help you. Software helps you a lot with the day-to-day lives, the management of assets, taxes, all that kind of thing. But it's not the one solution. It's just, I think you guys have and we're seeing it with another issue right now where we have some things happening with a neighbor that we can't get enforced because on the town, you can see in writing out there that says you don't allow this, but there's not a specific code addressing that. So how do we enforce that? You can look up and say this thing is not allowed, but when we talk to our property manager talked to the police, and there's not really a code for it, even though it's on the website. So again, it comes back to there's an enforcement problem here, not necessarily a policy problem. So please consider that. Thank you very much. Appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you, guys, Travis.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for being here tonight and taking the time to hear our request.
Sorry, you might see your name for the record.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're coming right now. Yeah. Very excited. My name is Scott Babcock. I'm here with my wife, Julie. I did some research. I also came prepared with a statement to make sure, John, you already got me on the clock at 5 minutes. less than that now. We did want to make sure that we were in alignment with all the imperatives and the initiatives that the town has in our request here tonight. You have in your packet a timeline of events that we incurred with the town since December. We appreciate the work that each of you does on behalf of the town of Blue River. We know you spent a lot of great time dealing and addressing with challenging issues, things such as thoughtful development growth, short-term rental regulations, wildlife mitigation, updated land use code, governance reform, and preserving Blue River's residents' character. We've been a part of this community for 10 years. My wife Julie and I grew up in Colorado. We've been coming to the Colorado mountains our whole lives. We're not here asking the town to expand the number of short-term rental licenses. We don't want to weaken the town's regulations. We're simply asking the board to allow us to continue operating under the short-term license that we've previously held. Our permit was suspended because our renewal was started but never completed. We genuinely believed we had submitted the required documentation in December after receiving the town's initial request. We paid our renewal fee on time and even contacted the town later that month, which was December, asking about the status because we wanted to be certain everything had been completed. We know the town's been very busy just managing and operating the short-term licenses and the burden that it carries. We know that it was a busy time. Unfortunately, additional requests from the town were not seen by my wife or I as they were diverted into a junk email. So in March, we were notified that there was still missing information. We didn't see that. We didn't discover the problem until the moratorium had been adopted. And while this was not intentional, we recognize that ultimately it was our responsibility to ensure that the renewal process was completed. We'd ask the board to consider our history as responsible property owners for the following reasons. For years, we've operated the property in a way that we believe reflects the value of this community. We intentionally rent our home only 6 to 8 times per year, but we pay the full STR license fee. Our objective has never been to maximize rental income. Like many of the others here, it's just to help supplement and offset expenses and really to make improvements to the property overall, which we do every single year. We enjoy our homes ourselves and simply offset a small portion of the ownership costs. We personally manage every single reservation, which there are only 6 to 8 in a year. I know personally who is staying in our home. We have local representatives who live 5 minutes away and are available 24/7 and can be on site if necessary. We've consistently paid all required lodging taxes and fees on time, never missed one. Most importantly, our property has operated quietly and responsibly. We're not aware of any complaints or neighborhood issues associated in the entire time we've been here. Granting our request would not increase the number of short-term rentals in Blue River. It would not introduce new rental into the community. It would simply restore a previously licensed property that's demonstrated responsible operation. We understand the board's responsibility is to protect Blue River's neighbors, and we support that mission. We respectfully believe our history demonstrates that our property has been consistent with all of the objectives. As I said in the beginning, with all of the initiatives and the imperatives that the town has and the way in which we're aligned to every single one of us. We appreciate your consideration and respect that you reinstate our short-term license. And with 30 seconds remaining, I'm finished.
Thank you, Scott.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jeff Burnett. I am with I'm the general manager at Ski Country Resorts. We are a property management service, and I'm here to add my voice to the chorus of others who are asking for further consideration on your behalf. On behalf of Ski Country Resorts, we've been around in the Breckenridge and Blue River area for over 38 years now. And I want to thank you, board members, for doing your diligence to rein in some compliance issues. We all know that compliance to the short-term rental licenses, to sales tax, all of those types of items have been an issue. Not that, like we've heard, not that we don't have ordinances, but that it has been difficult. Enforcement has been an issue. we thank you. As people who are adamant that any homeowner we bring on program is compliant in every way, we thank you for making sure that holding everybody to the same set of rules. We see the value in what you're doing. We understand your hearts. My appeal to you is, and I've put this in writing as well. I won't get into too many of the details just for everybody's time, but we have several homeowners in the Blue River community whose homes we rent. We had one in particular who missed the January deadline to renew her long-standing license. She purchased in 2020. She is an out-of-state homeowner. In November, December of last year, 25, she was in the midst of moving her primary residence out of state and had an egregious injury to her shoulder. For months, she was in and out of hospital, having surgery, over to a long-term live-in rehabilitation center, back to more surgeries, back and forth, back and forth. So we did miss the deadline of. She's been a long-term resident. We missed the deadline to get to renew her her paperwork. Enter her newly required requirements into the portal. We worked with the town. You guys were very gracious. Shout out to John and Chad. Those guys are fantastic, really great to work with. We definitely appreciate you guys. We were told that you guys would work with us, and they did. We missed an email in April that was sent to us saying, "Hey, your account is still a little bit out of balance." I will own that 100% as well. The phenomenal employee who missed the email got the email, was going on vacation the next day, kind of put it in the wait till later category, and we never came back to it. I know that sometimes when you're rolling out new legislation like this or creating new mandates, it's hard to take into account every individual. Like you guys have to make hard decisions and make blanket statements. I would invite you to please consider a couple of ideas that I would submit to you. One, with getting all the paperwork in, we didn't have the opportunity to file for an extension. And being that we were granted one, we just didn't have deadlines. This poor senior adult lady never had the opportunity. Like she was in and out of the hospital. Granted, by the time we received her email in April, she was out of the hospital. She was back into a primary residence. But we didn't know what deadlines would be there. So my request of you guys is, I guess, twofold. Number one, if we could understand deadlines for an extension process, and or if you would consider an appeals process. I hope that we don't issue short-term rental licenses to anybody and everybody. I hope that those who have been uncompliant are held accountable, and we're grateful for that. I know that sometimes even making an example out of those folks is a healthy, appropriate course of action. I would ask you guys to consider also making an example for those who have tried to be compliant, who have had good track records, and make an appeals process for those who, this was not a compliance issue, this was a clerical issue. And she swears up and down she did send the appropriate paperwork. She's not the greatest with technology. We don't have any evidence of that. But again, our opinion is that it's a clerical issue. We'd love for you to please make an appeals process for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else on the left side?
Good afternoon, or I guess early evening. I'm George DiCarlo. I've emailed with Chad and with John. We've had a place here since 1989. 6041 Highway 9. A lot has changed up here. We've had a short-term rental license 18-000070. So we've been doing this a long time. A lot of the new things that came down this year that we got emails from Chad and John regarding the license. The place was owned by myself and Marta DiCarlo, and she passed away. So when we were trying to get everything, we were trying to move this into with the grandchildren and everybody into a LLC so that they had a little bit of equity and to their point too, we're not making money on this. We're covering expenses because electricity is not very cheap up here. And we've got snow plowing because we're not on a main road. So I worked through all the insurance stuff, got all that. The one item that was missing was the deed. That took me 2 months to get an attorney. Find an attorney to change the deed. And I had to change the deed from Marta and George DeCarlo to George DeCarlo. Then I had to change it from George DeCarlo to Blue River Getaway LLC. That took from February to May 1st. The assessor's office sent me the reception number 1374268. I got the deed. Well, I didn't get the deed. The deed was stamped, notarized at the assessor's office. I didn't get it until, guess what day? May 18th. Then we got it to, I think we got it to Chad or John, I can't remember, on May 20th. But May 19th, moratorium took effect. So it wasn't without our due diligence trying to get all the paperwork, the new insurance and the right names and everything done in that amount of time. And we had the leeway to do it. We didn't dilly around. But May 20th, 24 hours. Missed it by 24 hours. So we paid first quarter, we paid second quarter. I shut down the calendar and we don't rent very much. I'm just looking to make expenses because that was a big thing. We undertook a renovation of the place, redid the kitchen and the deck, and turned it into someplace nice. And this is helping offset some of those costs. But we were 24 hours off the ball. So I'd like to see at least a consideration that we've had a license for a long time. We've been in this community for, I guess, 38 years now. So thank you.
Thank you. Evening, I'm Christopher O'Bannon. My husband Josh and I live at 60 Collier Valley here in Blue River. We've been in Summit County for 5 years. Josh works for a local nonprofit, and we both volunteer and serve on boards for several other local nonprofits. We're not outside investors. We're your constituents, speaking as people who live under the decisions of this board. When we bought our home in April, it had an established short-term rental history. Its license didn't transfer, so we declined the seller's future bookings and stopped all STR activity at closing. We then made substantial improvements and repairs before applying. The day we applied, this board imposed an emergency moratorium on new applications. I work in affordable housing. I've spent my career navigating what unmanaged short-term rentals can do to a community. So understand what it costs me to stand up here and defend the right to operate one. I'm not against regulating short-term rentals. I believe it. But doing it this way as an emergency with an undisclosed conflict without the required process that allows meaningful consideration and comment from the people you serve doesn't protect this community. An ordinary ordinance takes effect after 30 days. This one took effect immediately because this board declared an emergency, a power Colorado reserves for preserving public peace, health, or safety. So what was the emergency? According to the ordinance, stopping applications while new rules were written. That's administrative convenience, not an emergency. That gap led me to request the town's records through the Colorado Open Records Act. They show Trustee Willie raised the compliance concerns, worked with the town attorney to draft the ordinance, made the motion, and voted for it. Those records were only part of the story. I also pulled state filings and Better Business Bureau records. Willie forms Mountain Vacation Rental LLC in 2021. She's its registered agent. She filed its May 2026 report. It does business as 365 Blue Vacations. The Better Business Bureau lists her as its owner. Today, its booking site advertises 70 vacation rentals. All 70 in Breckenridge. The May 19 minutes show no disclosure, recusal, or abstention from Trustee Willie. Instead, she led the moratorium effort while that potential conflict went undisclosed. A conflict like that belongs in the open, weighed by those who don't hold it, not decided quietly by the person who does. That public meeting was not where this process began. The records show Willie contacted most board members beforehand. In June, Trustee Heckman said he opposed the measure, was the only member Willie did not notify, and was abroad when it passed. Trustee Stimson said he felt manipulated by how it was presented to him. Not every member acted with the same knowledge or intent. The record shows one trustee with a potential conflict shaped and sold the proposal before the public meeting. One. Attorney Widner advised Willie to secure majority support before the meeting and took responsibility for structuring the moratorium as an emergency. His role in this deserves more scrutiny. We've retained counsel and filed a complaint with the Colorado Independent Ethics Commission. We asked two things. First, Trustee Willie should recuse herself from every discussion and vote on short-term rentals. Second, without her participation, rescind the moratorium and obtain independent legal advice before any further STR decisions. Rule breakers were the justification for the moratorium, but were not impacted by it. The ones impacted were those following the rules. Public office is a public trust that requires transparency, fair and consistent application of the law, and ethical governance. None of that happens on May 19th. This is your opportunity to correct it. Thank you.
I think I'll follow that one. Again, my name is Larry Nelson. I've been totally involved with this town for close to 50 years. I tell you, when elected officials participate in decisions where there are questions about the appearance of personal conflict, personal financial interest undermines public trust. I also urge the board to provide consistent ordinance and traffic enforcement throughout this town. That's not happening right now, including radar enforcement on all local roads. We have 25 to 30 miles of local roads in this town. The only place I see police enforcement is on Highway 9. I have requested from, I'm sorry, is it Chad? 3 Cora request. The first Cora request is going to be on 3 years worth of the history of short-term rentals in this town and why you feel you need to have words and not enforcement. If someone rents their place out and is bothering their neighbor, the owner of the property should get called into court. You don't need words for an ordinance. All you're going to do is tangle this already deep, dark web that you've drawn. You have no enforcement whatsoever. Susan, or Cindy, is in the room. She'll agree with me. We've had some terrible renters right next door, right outside our window in the hot tub until 4 o'clock in the morning.
Quarter 3, quarter 4.
There's no enforcement. There is no police officer that's going up and down Whispering Pines Street. Likewise, there is no speed enforcement on Whispering Pines or any other area of the town that I can see other than Highway 9. So I requested Cora law enforcement and regulations to be broad spread across the entire town. This town needs to start enforcing the ordinance that you've got. You don't need more words. There's part of my core request is, of course, the conflict of interest. It's obvious. you know, a lot of people have been up here and spoken, and you all have special needs, special wants. Let me in, but I guess just let me in because the circumstances threw me out. I've lived here for almost 50 years. I've never wanted to get in. What in the world am I doing up here arguing for short-term rentals? It's because it's the only way that property works in this town. You can't, for what reason can you say one person can rent and one person can't? If there are problems with the home, you've got law enforcement officers that you never had in the past, and you can certainly shut them down. Come up with an ordinance that says if we go to your house 3 times, the owner of the house no longer qualifies for a short-term rental license. That's it. That's all the wording that you need. Got a couple more for you. Architectural control and color selection are overseen by the town with the Architectural Control Committee. The color standards are consistently applied or supposed to be applied to all new constructions. If that's true, how can you allow the home that's at 6270 Highway 9 that's painted white when specifically in your ordinance it says no white homes in Blue River? Where did that house come from? Who allowed that to happen? That house is painted white with black trim. You can't miss it. It's right on the corner of Blue River Road.
Thank you, sir. Your time is expired. We appreciate your comment.
Thank you. Thanks, Larry.
I wasn't gonna speak, but I was gonna say something in reference to what a couple people have said. As a homeowner that has the top, my name's Laura Wardlaw, 81 Grace Road, is our for the last 3 years. My husband Travis spoke as a we have the top management company in the state of Colorado, and he will enforce anything that gets called into him. And the only violation we have had was somebody who parked over where the buses are by the mailboxes off of Blue River Road. And we didn't even get a call, we just got a violation. And that's like, it wasn't even on our property. How are we supposed to know where our guests park once they leave our property? We shouldn't have been responsible for that. And even then, if he had been called, he would have resolved it. But I want to speak to what that gentleman just said about shutting the people down. Airbnb already doesn't support the host. Airbnb already stands on the side of the guests. So what I would ask for as a homeowner and a short-term rental license operator is give that violation to the guest. They are violating a city ordinance after hours. They are violating a city ordinance with regard to parking on the road. Give that guest the violation and make them pay. Because Airbnb won't enforce it. A lot of times we're not even notified. And that's where it's going to change is when the guests remember back when I rented VRBOs 5 years ago, I had to sign a contract with the owner. I had to do a $500 deposit. They don't do that anymore because Airbnb doesn't want that friction. And so we don't have much as owners the ability to enforce what we want to be a good neighbor. And I think the way you'll enforce it is give those guests the ticket. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cindy Pilling. I live at 950 New Spring Pines, just up the road here. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak and share some of my experiences regarding short-term rental next door to me. When my husband and I bought this property 20 years ago, this was going to be our golden pond. And unfortunately, that no longer is my recognition. And I agree with you, Larry, 100%, that there needs to be more regulation and enforcement. And I took the opportunity last week to call the non-emergency dispatch because I had the folks next door urinating in the driveway, throwing beer cans all over the yard, having very loud hot tub experiences. And unfortunately, I was a little hesitant to make that call, but I felt it was my responsibility, not only to myself, but the other neighbors in the community as well. And so I did. I came up with the courage to call that non-dispatch number, and Jen came out and she was very diplomatic and she addressed the issue appropriately for me. But it's a revolving door. The next group that comes in left the hot tub cover off their hot tub all night. And it's just one thing after another. I could give you a litany of things that I've experienced in the last 7 months since the property was sold. And what has happened is that it sold to an investor who is primarily in this to make money. And I kind of feel bad for individuals like yourselves who have short-term rentals who are actually doing the right thing and hoping that the enforcement will be there for you. But when you have an investor coming into a property, their primary responsibility is to their profit. And so I'm dealing with that day after day. It's a revolving door. One group goes out, another group comes in on the same day. I'm living next to a de facto Motel 6. And frankly, after 20 years, that is not the lifestyle that I want to endure. So I do implore this board to take a serious look at their policies. Take a look at the definition of a residential area, which I have done. I won't repeat it to you because I know you all know what it means. And take the opportunity to put some energy and invest in the people who have elected you as officials. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional public comment? I'm gonna go ahead with public comment this time. Let's see. Now we are moving on to our work session, which is the draft policy on agenda item placement.
Well, it is included within the agenda packet. If you have the time to review it, this is a first go at defining the process and procedure for setting items on the agenda, how additions occur. For example, what criteria and threshold are necessary, authority to challenge agenda items, and additional items as stated. We tried to make it relatively streamlined because you can get really down in the weeds on processes like this without and lose the track of what you're intending behind it. But if Bob, would you have anything that you'd like to mention on this draft that you'd like to?
No, I hope I've had a chance to read it because it's a first cut at kind of what the practice is in other communities and what might work here, but it's by no means intended to be absolutely sacred. So I would encourage you to read it, figure out whether it works for you, and we can modify it however you wish. But we do need to have some parameters around how council members get to the agenda on items, so that we don't have a huge agenda of individual items where all the board members not decide they want to talk about it. But there is a method there's a madness associated with putting things on the agenda. We're trying to limit that and make it easy to get on, but yet put things on there that you want to talk about, not that one individual person wants to speak.
Yeah, that's a good succinct summary of this matter. Is there any questions that we can respond to that you may have?
So next would just be to draft it up and.
Well, next would be for y'all to read it if you haven't already. Contact Chad or I in the next month. So we can put some kind of determined policy together that you've all had some input on, put in some options in there and have you discuss it next week.
How do you do that?
Great.
Perused over it, I mean, strictly with detail, but I will.
Yeah, this is like we're saying, this is just the first draft. This is not the set in stone. And we love any input, any and all input that.
So just put our comments to you and Bob.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Then moving on to new business, we have an ordinance number 2026-05. It's approval of, approving a plat amendment of consolidation lots of 138 and 165 Blue River Estates and Mountain View subdivision into a new lot 138R. And we can go ahead and open that to public hearing, 5 minutes for anybody who wants to discuss that ordinance.
Hi, I'm Peter Danworth. Those are my properties. And my wife and I bought the house of 0166 Mountain View and bought the lot separately on the other side of the river. But it occurred to us that that lot really is the thing that gives my house its real value. It's a very private backyard. And so we thought about building a house over there, but if we did, because it's a pork chop shaped lot, the only good place to build would be right on top of our current house, and we don't want to do that. We know if we sell the lot, someone will build a house right on top of our lot. We don't want that on top of our house. We don't want that either. So we've decided to combine that. In the future, if we choose to sell the house, it won't be the complex sale that we had to face to buy the house on a mortgage and then buy the property separately. So we're trying to combine those two. Thanks.
Any other public comment on this? All right, I will go ahead and close public comment and anything the board wants to discuss on.
Yeah. You're aware that there's a river easement?
Yes.
And that people can be in your backyard on the river?
Fly fishing, whatever.
Right. Okay, I just wanted, and do you know if there's a pedestrian easement accessing between those two lots or on either side of either one of those lots? I'm not positive. I didn't.
Yeah, I don't think there is,
Okay.
but
I know
I
there's
don't mind
one.
people walking through my yard. The moose do it anyway.
Right, so I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of the easement along the river.
Yep.
And then the potentiality exists, I suppose, since you don't know and nor do I didn't have time to look specifically for a pedestrian easement, but I know that there's one close to your property on the other side of the street. And where I know where it comes out on Mountain View, but I'm not sure where it picks up again on the other side. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. And I don't have it, I personally, I don't think I see any issue with your request, and thank you for bringing it before the board.
Peter?
Yeah.
You had a survey done, right?
I did.
And did you pull any title work on it at all? Or did they look at, the surveyor look at the plat and all that?
The surveyor looked at everything, but I don't know that we pulled the title.
Oh,
When
well,
I-
just that, with that, if there was a legal easement.
Yeah, it's not on that.
I would think we'd
Yeah.
see it in here. Since you were here, I just wanted to pose the question if you knew.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Is there any considerations that we should be thinking about? I mean, it seems to like I can't think of any objections to why it would be a problem.
For the last 9 years, every board that I've been in front of has been very encouraging of lot consolidation. We have had several in the town. It is actually an exception to the subdivision prohibition that we currently have in place. We allow for subdivision changes to consolidate lots. So I don't see any policy reason to say no to this. It makes perfect sense, and we've approved many consolidations in order to essentially add more open feel to the community and not have houses on top of each other.
So in the future, if this is approved, and someone does, if I can sell the properties, someone wants to reestablish the lot lines, can people request that? Is it completely out of the question?
It would be out of the question if the lot that's combined does not exceed 160,000 square feet. and could not subdivide.
I see, the 80,000 square foot. Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
This one, the, you used to have, you could give a lot line, combine two lots and then build two structures. Yeah. This doesn't qualify, so that. You used to have that in place.
Yeah, that's it. The accessory apartment provision, which we're gonna use it. Exactly.
Ready for a motion? I make the motion that the board adopt ordinance number 2026-05, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Blue River, Colorado, approving the plat amendment to consolidate lots 138 and 165 Blue River Estates Mountain View subdivision into a new lot, 138R, addressed as 0166 Mountain View.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And since there is no old business on here, we'll start with the mayor and trustee reports. Any trustee reports?
Got nothing. The Lost Star Council meeting was canceled because everybody's pretty fire aware going on right now, and we didn't really have anything new, I guess, to discuss as determined by our liaison of the county. And transit board is upcoming, and I'm sure I'll report on that next meeting. Other than that, I have nothing. Thank you.
For the, say, fifth time in the last year, the P and Z has complained about Kyle not reviewing his applications properly and presenting something to them that was not reviewed fully and should not be their responsibility and should be his. So I would once again encourage us to do something about that, but I seem to be the only one who wants to do something.
Let me ask you a question on that, John. I keep hearing Whit's name coming up more and more on doing inspections. How does he fit into the whole picture?
Whit does the inspections.
And Kyle just does the.
He does some of the inspections. He's planning,
This is-
but he does most of the plan.
This is a contract, right?
That's correct.
So when does that contract? How does that work?
You could, but mine understanding, we could terminate it at any point.
There is a window. I would need to look at the specific information. I do know the window exists though, for when termination is possible or renegotiation. But I don't know the specific date, so I couldn't, I personally can't offer that.
The P and Z, many of the people, all the people on P and Z support your concern.
As far as I know, it's 5 of them do, I have to hear from.
Okay.
I've heard you mention it many times, and it's never been brought up to us in any other way than you mentioning it. So, I mean, there's been no action step.
That's because we don't have a formal way to get it on the
Okay, well, we're working on that, obviously. I will reach out to the P and Z people that I know, Tim Johnson's to start with, who's the head of it, and I'll get some feedback from them, and I'll ask Bob Widener offline to give me guidance on how best to proceed. I hear you, John.
Let's make a commitment to review this draft of this document to get things on the agenda. That would be a good thing. So we can see this through and get it on the agenda. I've heard about it ever since John's been on the board. I'm concerned about it. And I don't like seeing things not put on the agenda and discussed. So.
Can we just put it on our agenda for our next meeting? You know, we haven't adopted.
It's one of the ways in which you can put something on the agenda.
Oh, that's what I figured.
During a meeting with the board.
Let's put it on the agenda.
Let's put it on the agenda, shall we?
Okay, well,
Consensus is fine.
Any other trustee reports? You're up, or?
I do not have a report.
Yeah. I'll give a short 1-2 on my manager's report. Won't go too much into detail about the financial report, but I can provide a rundown of that, the existing financial status of the budget through June. That was provided by the town accountant. Just to briefly mention, we are in stage 2 fire restrictions and extreme fire conditions. And the town has consented to red, white, and blue patrol and enforcement of those measures as well, and recognition of that. So we exist in lockstep with the county on those measures. We've gone through several rounds of negotiation and discussion with Numo, and we have what we believe is the final contract with that pending our final internal review to make sure there's any related things that we need to tidy up with dates and specific provisions. But we are almost across the finish line on that. Just a general reminder that the Goose Pasture Tarn requires hang tags and boat permits if a boat is desired to be used on the tarn, and this is limited to short-term rent. It's limited to town residents, long-term renters, if the permit is formally transferred, and guests of town residents, provided the resident accompanies a guest during tarn usage at all times. Neo Connect is still working on our broadband efforts to design cost-effective broadband services options that the town can pursue at a later date using American Rescue Plan Act funds. Those do expire at the end of the year, so we are looking to use some of those funds as available. The summer town road maintenance is going on right now. We're still in the basic road upkeep category for the most part. Most of the basic upkeep has been done so far. The town is testing the use of a product called DuraBlend on a small subsection of roads instead of the standard magnesium chloride blend, as DuraBlend has a lower percentage of mag chloride in it. And we'll evaluate its efficacy following the winter season to determine whether or not it's used at a wider scale in future years. We have a couple projects that are about to kick off or are kicking off in about a month or two or so, which include a culvert cleanout between 97th Circle and Aspen Meadows, culvert cleanout of a non-functional culvert on Crown Drive and Highway 9, investigation of presence of an old culvert potentially on Coronet Drive, and if it exists, it will be cleared out. And proposed installation of driveway culverts at a number of individual properties on Royal Drive and Regal Circle to improve drainage, reduce standing water, and improve property access. Specific construction dates are still to be determined. And the town will make an effort as able to inform residents of potential road closures if that need is found to be necessary in those construction developments. The town is doing its first touches now to start its 2027 budget development, and we and town staff, myself and John, welcome any board comment on 2027 budget items and things we like that will need to be in items of importance. And please provide any thoughts or recommendations on whether or not on a possible budget retreat going forward towards the end of the year. And just as a note, due to the timing of the special session which occurred, it was the evening after the posting date, final posting date available in Summit Daily for the transitional district and subdivision moratorium. That's why they're not present on this agenda. They will be present on the subsequent August agenda and they will be posted with an adequate amount of time. However, the decisions that were made there did not permit such postings within the reasonable window as required. So that is my report. Thank you.
Subject to our questions. Can I take you back to paragraph 3, subparagraph B? On the Numo short-term rental contract progress, terms have been ironed out. Numo expects to have a contract ready for signature within several business days. That's great one. But let's assume that gets signed and goes into place. Was it Travis? Not Travis?
I'm Travis.
Who brought up the taking a month to get into play? So reference to Mr. Travis's time at the podium, how long do we see the implementation of this and see it actually taking effect and working and helping us to be able to manage the short-term rentals, which is the reason that we're entering into this contract to begin with? So can you give us any kind of timeline or help on that?
Sure, happy to expound on that a little bit
Understand
more.
you're both the board in for.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I am optimistic that we've ironed out the majority of the primary concerns in the contract, and we are working towards that resolution. Once it is signed, the estimate from the company side is 60 days for a bare bones first model, which will have the data in it, but 90 days for the payment platform to be integrated and installed within that. So it's not particularly functional. We can do the first efforts between that 60 to 90 day window. However, the payment process will still be ongoing and being implemented during that time frame.
We want somehow the enforcement piece to be able to be implemented and effective. So that we can get past this moratorium and continue doing business in the town. Next issue is, Pastor Tarn. 6 of the 7 board members are here. I know I heard it on the dais from the people seated here relative to boat permits. I thought we were getting rid of boat permits. Tarn access permits, yes, the hang tag, etc. But we talked about doing, obviously it's too late for this year. But starting next year, do we want to talk at all about boat permits? And if you have a Tarn permit, for 54 years I've been recreating on the Tarn, and I didn't have to have a boat permit until Michelle came up with it, and I thought it was a horrible idea then, and I think it's a horrible idea now. I don't want to pay $20 to take my canoe down to the Tarn, and my stand-up paddleboard, and my other stand-up paddleboard, and my other canoe, and my John boat. You're nickel and diming me at that point. So license plate, hang tag. I mean, if your boat's not seaworthy, the Tarn was empty for long enough for all of us to know that if you're a 4-foot grown man, you can walk your way out.
How we did that, I would be fine getting rid of the boat permit.
I don't think it constitutes a substantial source of revenue for the town. I think it constitutes a significant burden on the constituency that is irrelevant and unnecessary in my eyes.
The main intent of the use of the Tarn is that people that are using it are people that are allowed to use it, not necessarily the number of crafts that they have. Because I think the assumption is to get a craft to the lake, you have to have a vehicle to do it, and the hang tag is on the vehicle.
Correct. Do we want to do that tonight, or do we want to do it again next year at the beginning of the season before boat permits start being issued?
Well, we could probably have draft something and go to it next meeting.
Can we do that, Thomas? Winning. No relation to Charlie Sheen. That's not invoking him in any way. That's all I have. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Chad, a question on the broadband.
Yes.
Nick brought up contractor that wanted to put up an antenna. Has anything happened with that?
It has hit a bit of the back burner with other things going on, but I can reach out and make that a point of emphasis.
The only reason I bring it up is that I was pretty much against antennas because my opinion was they're very unsightly.
Mm-hmm.
However, since then I've seen a lot of several antennas that you can't even tell. It's like a giant tree. So Nick was correct that they are pretty. They are able to make them almost invisible. But the next part of that would be if we were to consider it, if it comes up on your agenda, is it just redundant? Is it really not necessary if we're going to go to broadband? Is it something we shouldn't even consider because we're going down the rabbit hole with broadband? Which my understanding with broadband, the first priority would be to get home service down the corridor.
Yes, that is correct. Broadband is a tricky thing to pin down specific dates on. I cannot think of a project that has higher potential back costs on the back end after you get it going than broadband. So that is what I would consider to be the gold standard, but that's not, the functionality of it is another thing entirely. When if the county has had ideas in the past of trying to get up to Quandary Peak, but those have been a little bit more wishful thinking than reality on those fronts, just due to the extent and distance to reach those neighborhoods. That would be the ideal scenario to piggyback off of. But going at it alone would be a substantial financial and logistical challenge for the town to encounter. I don't believe there's an issue with redundancy. If we were to have both of those access options, that is not to me something that I would be concerned with. I mean, there's broader concerns like you're saying. The appearance can be minimal, but there is still an appearance issue. And the location obviously would be another matter of concern as well. But broadband is a goal that I cannot readily tell you when the expected timelines for it will be. And I'm hoping that once we have everything wrapped up with Neo Connect with their analysis, that we can understand a little bit more where the town's priorities and needs exist.
We are spending a significant amount of money to support that.
Correct, but it's covered by a federal grant.
I would just, since I was so much against the antenna idea, I want to just kind of repeal that.
Okay.
And suggest that maybe we reconsider it. It sounds like somebody's ready to do it. It might make sense to do it. Since broadband does scare me a little bit too, in terms of the reality of that actually happening, expense, so forth. So just if you could put that about your many things to do, at least maybe keep it in consideration.
Well, we'll try to find a reasonable time to slide that in.
That's actually keep it.
Sure. I mean, is it possible for us to ask the town of Breckenridge how much they spent and how much it's cost them in the last 6 years? Because I feel like it's just we're helping a private entity in order to charge us more at some point. And as soon as they'll end, they're just going to jack the rates and the service is going to be the same.
For clarification, it's broadband, correct? Okay. Yes. I can't give you specific totals, but yes.
And I'm not convinced that anybody's using it. I don't hear any great stories. Nobody's raving about it.
I keep seeing Allie digging holes in streets in Breckenridge.
Because the lines are broken.
John, when I first heard about this broadband project, when we had our other town manager, the main focus was to get phone coverage from Breckenridge all the way to Hoosier Pass. That was the biggest concern. That was the biggest advantage to getting it immediately. There wasn't really a lot of talk that I heard about whether it was feasible to run it into the subdivisions of the individual homes.
And the Starlink solve some of these issues these days?
It depends on the property. It has improved drastically. However, Starlink is still somewhat constrained by your overhead access. If you have a high concentration of trees on your property, it will make it substantially harder. The area of view has decreased in years, but it's still substantial. From personal context, I've used it before, and the model I used was about 4 years old. You needed a completely unobstructed view of the skyline. I don't believe that's the case anymore, but it has upgraded.
I mean, I'm using the way it's going.
I'm using
really good in 2 or 3 years.
over here.
Okay.
Because of the cell service is good and it works fantastic.
Okay, great.
And so, but it doesn't really solve the problem when you're in your car, I think, which was what a lot of the conversation was around at the time.
We can't reasonably expect people to have Starlink roam.
Right. But
yeah.
You're in your car, there's an accident or there's bad weather, something's happening in your car, and you can't get a hold of people on the phone. That was really the main conversation I remember hearing, but it does sound like a big ask to get broadband. And so, yeah.
And it's not something that can be just lock, stock, and barrel done in one go. That's a substantial project with a lot of investment time. So it was not something to expect a year or two to wrap up the project at that scale, especially if we were to reach second and third tier arterial streets in town.
I do want to piggyback on something else Ted said. Going back to those comments, and that is this moratorium that we have in place and timeline that's an automatic expiration date, and our goal is to try to get this done sooner rather than later. If this software, which was kind of the main reason we wanted to do this in the first place, isn't ready to go, we're still gonna, I'm assuming we're gonna still go forward. We're gonna come up with a good plan for not just this, but a lot of other things that we're now talking about. And we need to be prepared, in my opinion, to open up for short-term rentals again under the new regulations that we come up with, and not make it hang our hat on that software program.
Correct. It's a nice accessory item in order to do our due diligence. The ideal scenario exists where we have that up online in time for the renewal process. However, that does not preclude us from doing that independently of the software.
Thank you. But for me,
Chief,
I'd like to say, does anybody have questions of me?
how's the tag process going down at the Tarn?
The tags are going great. It makes our job so much easier to do that and verify, especially when people are out of board and they're not directly right in the parking lot. Makes it really easy to verify if they're supposed to be there or not. We still, though, it's not signed well. And still, it is very inviting, as you all know. And so people just driving back and forth decide to pull in there all the time. If they stay, that's a different story, but we still encounter quite a bit of those people just stopping in. And occasionally they do have fishing poles and get out and start fishing and stuff like that. But we want to get that entrance sign better.
Could I ask your opinion also on, because I don't go down there much, when the entrance exit, is it being maintained? Or no? Just, I have a concern that, especially getting out of there, people could get spinning out and get hit by a car. And I just think we should ask Casey to keep an eye on that and keep it so there's no pothole there that you sink into when you're trying to go on the highway.
It's not our property.
But
That's our responsibility.
Well, wait a minute. So I thought we maintained it, or do we just enforce it?
Therein lies the crux.
So it does.
Well, shouldn't we clarify that?
Maybe we should.
And
I think the intention is that we take care of it, in my opinion, but I haven't
Bob,
heard that
you-
verbally from
Yes.
it,
Our intent was, we gave us the right to maintain it.
it, so
Especially to close it should maintenance have to happen, so you will be authority.
well, I know we've talked about maybe seeing if Theobald's are open to a second entrance at some point. That's not going to. I would like us to consider, or I don't think, maybe it could. I don't know. But making that entrance and exit safe, I think should be a priority. I really, really feel bad if someone got hurt trying to get onto the highway. They're pulling a trailer.
We should ask Casey about just make a 50-foot at the top pad, make the pad flat, and put the X in there and roll it. That's the day doing it, and it would make it a little bit solid and whatnot.
Chief, you got any ideas?
No, I agree. It is a little rutted out. Like I always say, cars coming and going, competing for that little bit of space is dangerous, especially on a straightaway where people do accelerate and go fast. So I'd love to see any improvement. Like I said, better signage as well.
Increase of width would be great. A one way access route would definitely reduce concerns as well. So either one of those are viable.
So,
but
when you say signage, Chief, I think you're referring to the signage down at the lake.
No,
No.
we ordered, unfortunately, for some reason our order got returned to sender. We ordered big, obnoxious green and red signs that say, do not enter, permit required. And made it with the idea was to face these for each direction, north and southbound, to be able to see them as they're approaching, to try to discourage people that don't have a permit from pulling in there
To begin with.
So yeah, that was the idea. We got to figure out where these signs just want to go.
Where are we on signs at the parking area?
Yeah.
And I thought we were gonna put a big sign at the top when you do turn left or right. As you're going in there before you make the left to go down the hill to the parking area. So you inadvertently don't see those signs that the chief just referenced. And you make the left or the right in there. Bang, there's another one right at your 12 o'clock. Live in Technicolor and quadraphonics.
I'd like to colorfully say that's like the stage 2 of signage that we were working on. The first one, unfortunately, disappeared into the ether now that the shipping got returned, but we will remedy that.
Thank you.
The other matter is the follow-up discussion from the June 30th short-term rental special meeting.
Well, this is just a brief statement that it's a discussion of the board for setting a date for an additional special meeting to discuss the policy and procedures further. Bob and I will put together an agenda that reflects that reality as well as board input. And we'll put it together, and you will also be able to see that for review. We are looking predominantly for questions for potential program adjustments going into 2027, as well as any sort of enforcement related ideas. So those are the two buckets of ideas that are kind of being that we compass there for our thoughts, but that is once again up for review and comment by the board. So, and all as well as the date and time.
Can we set a date and time now?
It makes it a tad bit more challenging because we had that 2-week buffer the last go around, but this one would land right on P and Z. So that's, they do the 1-2 here.
Do we have to publish this meeting?
Yeah.
We have to publish it.
We'll have it out, but it's not the same as a public. It's not a public hearing yet. No.
When is the soonest we could do a meeting?
24 hours notice.
I'm pretty flexible.
The next week.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do it pretty much any day next week.
I'll leave the 20th.
What do you do?
20, the evening.
So that makes it go well.
Next
Monday?
That'll be next Tuesday.
No, I know that's the day that you.
That is correct.
So do we have meetings on Monday or can we?
It does not prohibit having meetings. We won't have the administrative side open to the public until 5, but it does not preclude having a meeting here.
I say we narrow it down to Monday or Tuesday then. At what, 5? At the times that's most appropriate for people.
Monday because you're gone on Tuesday. So
Oh, you're gone
You have to do
Tuesday?
Monday.
Well, then maybe Monday. 5.
Either day, I will make myself free.
That work for everybody?
Monday.
Yep, I'm good. Either day, sure. Sounds like Monday's the only day we can do it. But
5 p.m.
It's on Monday at 1700. Aye.
Aye.
on fire.
Anything
Great.
else on that, or?
Nothing at this moment. But once again, we welcome board comment and review on the contents of said agenda. As we continue to shape the format. It's a little bit trickier because that's such a short time. 6 days difference is a little harder to form a coherent agenda, but we'll get something ahead of you guys.
I just want to see, like I said before, that list again of the number of licenses. And
Yeah, did you?
not with the suspected licenses, but the actual licenses.
Yes.
That you had mentioned taking that map and trying to identify where the different licenses are located. I don't know if that's, I know you've got a lot on your plate, Chad, so some of these things are easier to talk about than actually implement.
We may be able to use, to a best approximation, the 2024 version. It's not 1-to-1, but it is a fairly good representation. It has about a discrepancy of 10 to 15 licenses. I would go in and update it myself, but the source code is run by an engineering company, so I would have to manually go in and make a map myself.
Well, So a lot of the last meeting seemed to encompass the discussion of capping.
Mhm.
Seems like that's gonna be a pretty big conversation. Maybe we ought to just make that the agenda.
I think we should discuss all of this.
Seems to be the elephant.
The whole process.
I don't disagree with seeing an elephant in the room, but there are, I believe I guess there's enough other things tied into that maybe we want to discuss those, have a holistic view of what, to kind of ramp that into that discussion. But I don't, that is not my decision to make on the fact.
We just have so many rules out there. We got a pretty good set of rules right now. I don't know if we regurgitate them. I'd like to address, even though I didn't really want to talk about caps at this time, I want to talk more about enforcement. I think the group does want to talk about caps, so I'd like to go down the rabbit hole. Let's get it out there and start talking about it, see where it goes. It's dominating a lot of time. And in the interest of your time too, putting an agenda together in a short amount of time. And an enforcement officer would be, enforcement is big one for me too.
I will say, to put it out there, I am off. I am not going to be in office on Friday, so I will get what I can get done over these 2 days and going on Monday into the meeting. So, I'll chip away. So,
I would like to discuss the application process.
Mhm.
The backup plan when the technology doesn't work, because it has never worked for me. And I think a paper backup should be a thing. Also, I think fully a code enforcement officer the application should go out. We should discuss putting that into the paper in the next month and getting that going to hire somebody again, because that is still cleaning up the mess that was left by Michelle. She unnecessarily fired or left code enforcement guy. He might not have been the right person, but we need to try. We might have to fire 2 or 3 people to get the right person, but we can do that. I think that's what it takes these days. And getting that software and discussing if there needs to be a cap and discussing ways to encourage the citizens to make formal complaints so we can get rid of the 8 licenses that are a problem in our town and causing us to waste all this time.
You know, I don't know, I think it's appropriate, but do you think Chief could be there to help us a little bit with enforcement questions? And how that works with, if we do hire somebody, the things we should consider and what things the police department can handle and what things a code enforcement should do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'd be very valuable. My observations are this code or this short-term rental person needs to actually be more like an administrative manager of the process, because it's so heavy with the applications and the software and just all the follow-up. It's a lot of desk work. I think would be the majority of that position's job. And then there's a little bit of boots on the ground that I think we can divide up pretty easily.
Do you think, would you be willing,
I don't disagree with that assessment.
Would you be willing to be here? Or?
No, absolutely. I'd love to be, actually.
Well, we found a nice, young, smart, technology savvy person in Chad, so I think we can be able to find another one.
This pipeline, I could test the waters.
Enforcement. Yeah, you got some ideas on subsequent agenda. I wouldn't make it too complicated.
I think the flow will go as the flow goes. Yeah.
But just so we can stay on task a little bit.
Of course. I'm happy to
We let the flow go on the last meeting, and it was good, because it was hard to know where to start.
Yeah. I'll try to make some try to make some guide rails that we kind of have these are the points that if we want to talk about this and where does this lead into subsequently.
Thank you, Jan.
Yeah, thank you.
The next would be executive session, if someone wants to make a motion on the next 2.
Do we need to add an executive session to discuss extended vacancies on the board? Is that
not just, we could handle that for a few minutes on next Monday, but probably not good time.
Make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and move into executive session at this time.
Second.
And did you agree to read both of them?
Yeah,
I don't have them.
Oh.
I was looking for something to read and I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's on the top.
Hey, everybody,
Concerns, I can tell.
to the public, thank you for showing up and voicing your opinions, and not always hearing the good, easy to hear the things